good morning, everybody. I think we can make a start because we are already 2 or 3 minutes late. Nice to see you. I'm Sandro Di Simplicio. I'm a vitreoretinal surgeon and a refractive surgeon up in Newcastle. And one of the reasons I'm here is because we have set up in Newcastle a complete carbon neutral pathway that we will discuss in a minute. So I'm very glad that you managed to join us, and I hope you'll find this session interesting and entertaining. And by all means, by the end, if you have any question, we'll be happy to answer them. Radhika, please.
And so lovely to see you, Sandro. So my name is Radhika Rampat. I'm an ophthalmic surgeon, anterior segment surgeon based at the Royal Free Hospital in London. And I'm also the Associate Academic Director of the Refractive Surgery Alliance Global Fellowship Network, and of course the Chair of the Green Working Group for ACOS. So Sandro, it has been amazing getting to know you on the green scene over the last 1 year, and you have achieved some amazing things. I mean, you are the first surgeon in the world to perform carbon neutral cataract surgery. I mean, that's like the holy grail, essentially, for sustainability. Can you tell us a little bit about how you achieved that?
Thank you very much. Yes, it has been a fantastic journey, I have to say. It's been a long journey, and I'm just going to go through it quickly just to point out a few key aspects of them. Was an idea which came from an industry which I was approached by, and they were looking to set up this kind of process if it was possible. We thought it would have been a kind of a smooth sailing process. It turned out to be a very hard work, but it was definitely worth it at the beginning. I think the key aspect that we need to talk about is that the whole project was revolving about the idea of not really offsetting what we were doing, but reducing. Because, offsetting, it's easy. You can just buy into a project, plant a few trees, and that would be all right. But that doesn't really solve the problem in the background. So we started with just the basics, which was the measurement of what we were producing. And it turned out to be a very long and demanding task, because every single tray is formed with tens and tens of instruments, and just figuring out not only their weight, which is the easy part, but where they were manufactured, how they were shipped, and how they reached our hospital. So hence the impact that they had on the environment was a Herculean task. But this gave us a very, very good baseline, and believe it or not, what we found is that the cataract surgery accounts for about 170 kilograms of CO2 per case. So if you do a list with standard, let's call it 10 cases, something like that, you are talking about 1.5 tons more of CO2. This was the baseline. Starting from here, we sat down and said, right, how can we make it better? Now, we all know that there is no way to reduce this to zero, because the only way to reduce this to zero is to stop doing cataract surgery. That was found quite unacceptable by our management. So we said there are a few steps that can be done. If we can say we were happy about something that we found, is that the two key aspects which were producing more CO2 were procurement and energy. So energy is something that you can easily, quickly, and probably even cheaply work with, because changing bulb lights for LED lights, stuff like that, in the long run it saves you money, it saves you energy, etc. So these are the things that can be easily be done. The procurement part as well was very interesting, because of course, we figure out that we had lots of instruments which were coming on different days, different shipments from almost the same place. So we said, why don't we try to merge them together, to have, instead of having 3 shipments, having just one. So these help us to reduce a lot. Now, our standard cataract surgery impact for our center was about 80 kilograms, because we have a very energy efficient system. So working within these two sort of lines, we managed to reduce our carbon production. The rest was of course offset. Was offset into under project that you usually do. So this is what has happened at the RVI shell. Of course, we only have the time that we have. So if you have any other question, then we can decide this we can discuss this at the end. But I also know that I have achieved something good at the hospital, but you have set up a fantastic group at the ECOS, which you share, and is the green group within the ECOS. So I'm very curious to know everything about that, because I know that you've been doing fantastic stuff, and I want to be on top of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, Sandro, I have to say that I am fed up of hearing about how we can, there's a whole thing about sustainability everywhere. And in ophthalmology, I think it's really is picking up speed in terms of what we should be doing. But I feel like there's too much talk and not enough action. And for me, that was my issue. And so I said to myself, we did the sustainability session, which I organized at ECOS last year, and in Belgium. And I said, when we were on the stage, we had all these amazing people talking about sustainability and what they had achieved in their own places. I said, well, why are we just talking about it on stage? Let's take this off stage. So I set up it's called the ECOS Green Working Group, or ECOS GWG. And right now it's been approved by the European board, or the executive board, which is great. And hopefully I'm hoping that it'll also be approved by the American ECOS board. And then we can have like a really global situation. But going back to what we can do ourselves, I decided that we start from where I'm working right now, which is at the Royal Free. And also I'm working with my co-chair, David Sharnazarian, with the supervision and sort of mentorship of Sheraz Daya. And we said, okay, in our own places, we should make some changes. And we started doing something very simple. We just started looking at, again, we weighed our waste from cataract surgery and looked at our trays and actually tried to reduce what is on there. And, multiple different, as you mentioned before to me, that you have like 4 different types of keratomes and now you have 1. It's all about going lean, but also it's about starting somewhere very specific. And I don't think anyone has done this. So we developed something where we have a sustainability warden, an assigned warden in our eye unit. And I proposed to ACOS earlier this year that I think every single eye unit in the world should have a sustainability warden. Because that, and with that and me being part of the ACOS group, together at each hospital, you just have to have one person kind of leading and one person being the warden. You can do so much together. We looked at, for example, just 100, we got a list of 100 medications that we use in our eye unit. And that was hard enough to compile as it is. And then I said, you know what, let's focus on 7 of them. And we focused on 7 drops which were available as preservative-free medication versus preserved. And I said, actually, all of these preservative-free medications which come in the little tiny vials, so much waste, and I then contacted companies to say if there are, because now there are new technologies, and we're far behind. So there are preservative-free bottles available now in actual bottle form rather than all this plastic waste. So I calculated for my hospital, if we just swapped out 7 of those drops, that we would save about £50,000, but that's only for the 1 month. Okay, what about so what about that 11 months when the patient goes back to the community and use those drops? And now there are different companies coming up with drops which you can use for 3 months, which are also preservative-free. I mean, it's a no-brainer. If you can manage to reduce your plastic waste and reduce the cost at the same time. So we're actually doing a financial improvement project officially at the Royal Free right now just for that bit. And some other things we're doing are like, I'm getting personalized, this is not very sexy, but I'm getting personalized stickers for the bins to say what you can and can't dispose of, All of these small changes that we make, we need to make them in our own units. And I want actually the whole of the ACOS Green Working Group globally to work together and encourage and have your own sustainability wardens, and then have those wardens talking to each other. That we're not reinventing the wheel, we're just progressing all together incrementally. And that way you can come back, every year to a conference and say, this is what we've done this year, and hold ourselves accountable. And so I say it's an end to talking about sustainability, and I think actually doing something about it.
Absolutely. And there is one key aspect from my point of view, and I hope you can also agree on this, is that sustainability doesn't necessarily have to be carbon neutrality, because we have done that and it was an exercise to show the world that you can do it. But turning off the light when you go home at night, it's sustainability. Moving from 4 different type of keratomes, because someone likes it red, someone likes it blue, but they are all the same kind of blade, to just one, it is sustainability. And even if eventually you don't become carbon neutral, that doesn't particularly matter. It's a very good and strong start. Once then you are sort of used to this process, then you keep looking into what you are doing. And of course, you can put always a little bit more action in place. For example, your not sexy thing, as you mentioned, about the stickers. I think it's a fantastic idea, because I personally never thought about that. And it's crucial that people, even who are not exactly super interested in the topic, but know that this goes here, this goes there, and there is a reason for that. It's not just an exercise to annoy people. There is an actual reason behind that.
Yeah. And the more we get the whole unit excited by having regular discussions about it, the more we can get involved. And yeah, so I'm really, really excited to continue this journey. And I think that over the next year, you're going to hear a lot more from us about little incremental things that make a huge impact.
Give us a top tip of where really people can start. So we have an audience here, we have surgeons, we have people who work in AOR. What would you suggest them to start from, and what can they do tomorrow when they go back in theater?
I would highly recommend getting a sustainability warden assigned and appointed in your own eye unit. And then you contact us and we will give you a step-by-step. I'm literally creating algorithms for people, step-by-step of what you can do. Look at your drape size for the next 1 month, in the different packs that come through. Try and figure out where those drapes are coming from. Try and get smaller drapes. You just have to do one thing every few weeks and just focus on that and then reassess. And it may seem like nothing at all, but it makes a huge impact. And I'm really excited to see where we go in the next year. But we've already achieved so much. And even just having an idea a year ago about the Green Working Group and having it already being signed off by the Executive Committee this year, I feel like we can really make... And the Green Working Group, it's not just us. You're on the Green Working Group because you did the presentation last year. And we have, Francesco Corona is on the group. We have a whole list of people who are there ready to support us. So it's an exciting future for us.
And I assume education is a very important part of this, because like everything which is, we can say, non-tactile, so you can't really touch it and feel it, what you are doing, it becomes a little like, a theory. So if people understand that this is not just an exercise in futility, but there is actually some very good thing that we achieve after that. So with the green group in AECOS, are you also thinking about setting up some sort of, let's call it educational pathway for people who are interested into joining us?
So I think this is the important thing, because I think education is important, but I feel like we've almost been talking about it too much. So I would feel it's more important. It is very important to educate, but I think it's more important for people to just start, just do that first step, because then this is a perfect platform. BVI has been incredibly supportive of sustainability, and just giving us the time of day to talk about this is education in itself, right? But the rest of it, I feel that we should have our full focus right now on getting your sustainability warden set up in your eye unit, contacting me or contacting, yourself, I guess, and, we can just begin. And I have a feeling that if we can do that, I don't want to do that thing where you kind of go online and just talk about it a lot. I need to see action, and I want to do the action right there in my unit. And then I want to come there and be like, okay, and this has been accepted by our management, because a lot of the time it's about convincing management about what you're doing. And the only way to do that is to save the money in the first place. So
you found the best argument to convince management, because with the drop project that you came up with, you also showed them that not only they were doing something positive, but they were saving money. And they are usually quite sensible to the second part of the conversation. So this is indeed a great idea. Do you also work and have discussion with industry? Because what I mean is that there is a lot of waste in packaging and, so this is definitely a conversation that we should have.
Yeah, in fact, you made a very good point, because I completely forgot about this part of what we had achieved at the ACOS Green Working Group, which is the last thing I think we're going to say, because I think we're running out of time, is that in ACOS is kind of interesting because we have this top surgeons in the world, but we also have all the top industry that arrive. And we actually got them on stage this year at Florence and had the industry talking about, holding them accountable for what they have done. And that's the other part B of what we're doing, which is to collaborate with industry. And there's no competition. We're all trying to achieve the same thing and just come together at the table. And so there's going to be some interesting things with that as well in the next year. So
I think, lastly, I'm going to address the elephant in the room, because there is always the question that nobody wants to ask, but everybody's thinking about is there a cost implication of doing this? And we published a paper about this on the Journal of Surgery. And yes, there is in the very short term. What we found was that it was roughly around £1.10 per case, so make it €1.20, something like that. And this is true in the very short term. But in the long term, my gut feeling is that this is a positive change which can also lead to a save. And the reason is exactly because you are forced to look into your process. You are to look into what you have. You are forced to look in how you manage your procurement. And when you start to streamline this, you save a penny here, a penny there, and to get to about £1 worth of expenses it doesn't really take much. So not only you can break even, but there is the fair possibility that you may actually be even financial better off after you've done this process and this exercise, because looking into what you do is the best way to figure out what you are doing wrong and what you are doing right and what you could do better.
Having a baseline and working forward. But I think we shouldn't be worried that we're going to be losing money by going sustainable. I think forget about the climate change and everything else that's been going on. Just focusing on just saving money at the same time as being sustainable is a great thing to aim for. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us, talking about our passion. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.